Well, welcome everybody to our online program on addiction and recovery from the Sunshine Coast Health Centre up here in Powell River, BC. And we've been talking about Dr. Wong's Pure model. At the centre, we use a lot of Dr. Wong's theories and research and practices as part of our work with those suffering from addictions. Not that it's the only thing we do. We follow clinical best practices, but we do pay a special attention to the idea that maybe the fellows here are using substances as a response to not living a personally meaningful life, to not living a life that is fulfilling for them. And so drugs step in to fill the void or the vacuum or the emptiness that they tell us is in their lives. So Dr. Wong's model that we've been talking about, he's trying to bring up the various components of what does all this meaningful living, what does meaning even mean? So we've talked so far about this idea of purpose, suggesting even some people, and I think Dr. Wong would agree with this, is that we're hardwired for purpose, for direction, that it's a product of evolution and so just is inherent within us. We talked about understanding, making sense of situations, other people, and particularly ourselves. And now this third one, R, responsible action. So in the Pure model, P-U-R-E, R, the third component, responsible action, is a very, very important component. In fact, some very famous people have said action is probably the most important component. I'm thinking of the great psychiatrist Viktor Frankl, who certainly, in one of his books, he quoted some famous German philosopher, literary fellow, and talking about the fundamental component to living a meaningful life is action. You have to do something. Irving Yalom, the famous psychiatrist, he said the same thing, that this action is fundamental, and certainly Dr. Wong would promote action is absolutely fundamental to living a meaningful life. In other words, it's no good sitting back and reading about this stuff, or here in therapy group, discovering all of this, becoming aware of what's going on for them, but then just it stops there. No, you got to practice. You got to practice. You got to do things. You've got to get out into the world. You've got to gain experiences. You have to do things that will contribute, right? This idea of action is so fundamental to a meaningful life. In fact, one of the interesting things that we've discovered when we keep in touch with our alumni is if the alumni is running into trouble, now that they're out in the back home and doing whatever they were doing, is we ask them, well, what did you do as part of your new life? And almost inevitably they say, well, nothing. All they did was put a cork in the bottle. This leads to problems because the idea of that Dr. Wong talks about, this purpose, this understanding, all of this has to develop. How, and understanding myself, how would I know? I have to do things. This is how I'm going to get a sense of it. I'm going to have to pay attention to real life experiences. A purpose in life. If I don't know my purpose, I'm going to have to start experimenting. Well, I did this, but I didn't really like it. Or I thought maybe I would like to be a park ranger, but actually I learned after I spent a couple of months doing it that it really wasn't for me. Right? So the only way really is to take action. And so action is fundamental. And then again, action is, a lot of it is based on values, right? What action it takes. So what is my responsibility in this situation, right? How should I act in this? Or if somebody is being disagreeable, how do I act? In this particular situation, and yet be true to what's important to me, right? So all of this is wrapped up under this whole concept of responsible action. Anyway, that's it for this time, and we'll be back next time with the last in our series.